Hi, I'm Ashley Williams from the Human Centipede, and you should listen to WithoutYourHead.com.
Just without your head.
Without Your Head.
Now we're live. Welcome to Without Your Head. I'm Nasty Neal. We're here with the dinner party. We've got the cast and the crew. We have Vincent, and he's the co-writer, Miles Doleac. Good to have you back. Hello. First time I had you on video, though.
Yes.
Yes. Sadie and the producer, Lindsay Anne Williams.
Hola.
The star, Alli Hart. And the composer, and the first time I've ever introduced someone as this, the opera consultant, Clifton Hyde. Which is very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. We've actually had a couple of reviews where they specifically pointed out how much they appreciated our handling of the opera material and how it related so beautifully to the characters and their individual narrative journeys. And, Clifton played a big role in that. He is a music aficionado, opera aficionado, man of many talents, maybe even a master of a few. And opera is one thing he has a pretty firm handle on. So
yeah, and I would think that's something sometimes people overlook, like in a movie or a story. Is like, oh, this person, they must be an expert on this field. Just a person writing it, but you bring in an actual expert. So if someone is like an expert in opera, they know that these people know what they're talking about.
Right. I mean, research is a good thing. Getting the facts straight is a good thing, in my opinion. I come from a history background. I have a PhD in history, as you may know, Neil. So it was very important to me that those little details were spot on, and Clifton helped us get that stuff right.
Yeah.
Miles, just because I just thought of this and that I didn't know, how did you meet Clifton?
Clifton and I have known each other since, elementary school?
Oh, wow.
But we became close in high school because we both attended Hattiesburg High School, which had, at the time, one of the best drama programs in the whole Southeast. And we were both heavily involved in that program, traveling around to drama festivals and drama and debate tournaments and that sort of stuff. And we've been collaborating ever since. And in fact, on the musical front, one of Clifton and my favorite things to do in high school was to sit in hotel lobbies when we were off at a drama festival or a tournament or whatever, and serenade the populace with tunes. Clifton would play guitar.
I love that.
I was never informed of this.
15, 16 years old, and these people would be giving us drinks for free. It was great.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I didn't know you guys used to do that.
Yeah.
We played a wedding or something.
Yeah,
right?
we got pulled into a wedding, I think, at one point. Yeah.
Mutual weirdos.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just like,
I love it.
a song for the bride. We're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Which I don't remember now, Miles. You did a song in one of your earlier movies.
We've got songs all over our movies. Yeah. We wrote one for this movie too. It's called Ash Wednesday. Plays over the closing credits. But yeah, we have written original music for every movie since The Hollow. Not only obviously original music, but we've written an original song for every movie since The Hollow.
One of Miles's songs does feature in The Historian, but it wasn't written for The Historian.
Right.
Yeah. About Alli, how did you meet everybody? Did you know everyone beforehand, or?
No, Miles, you want to hop on that train?
What?
Did you want to hop on that train and see?
Yeah. Well, so Alli has a wonderful agent named Rachel Sheedy, and we have worked with Rachel several times. And her awesome clientele like Bill Sadler, and in this film, Bill Sage. Right. So we were talking to Alli about Bill Sage for this movie. And to Rachel, about Bill. And she looked at the script. She said, I have this amazing actress, Alli Hart. You have got to read her for this role. She just has something, this magnetism. She's going to be big. I absolutely know it. So I said, anything for you, Rachel, because she's always been good to us. And so Alli read for it and blew the producers away. The two of us and Jim Bullion and Wes all watched her work and agreed that, our search was over for this lead character of Haley, who had to be so many things, vulnerable.
I remember our first conversation about that on the phone shortly after.
Yeah, I mean, you go ahead, Alli, take over. I mean, it's a it's a tricky dance, a complicated dance that this character has to engage in.
She's so multidimensional, and there's I learned so much more about her when I got there and had so many conversations with you, and then meeting Jeff was a big thing. That was meeting Jeff,
Character Jeff,
yeah, and that was a big thing. That was a big moment for me where I was like I had a much broader understanding of this character once I met him. But yeah, we talked. Me and Miles talked for a while after I booked about this complex character that I was super excited about, and then me and Lindsay talked. Finally, like, we tried to get on the phone for a little bit. And we talked, and then it's just like we were on the phone forever. And I was like, I know these people. These are my mutual aliens. I can't wait to create with them. We just had this beautiful chemistry already that
even over the phone. It was instantaneous. Our first conversation, it was supposed to be like a 5-minute conversation about her sizes and what colors she wanted, and just like have like a little bit of a costume conversation. We ended up talking on the phone for I think like 3 hours or something.
Yeah, we went into a rabbit hole of life, and it was, I mean,
and
I think we needed that though. I think we really needed that, because as soon as I landed, I knew who I knew you. I knew whose car I was getting into, and I just felt so at home and comfortable and ready to. The way this transcended in this like very family. Yeah, where I was like, oh my gosh, hi, I missed you, and I don't even know you.
But I feel like it had to be that way, because coming to Mississippi, a place you had never been before, helming, being the lead actress for the first time in a feature film, like, that's really heavy, that's really hard. So having that comfortable kind of instant connection, I mean, I just
leaving my kid for the first time ever for 4 weeks. And you guys made it easy for me to sign. I remember when I got in the car, I was like, oh my God, I haven't left my kid. Like, and you really silenced a lot of those worries and fears, and it was great.
I think that camaraderie, that esprit de corps that we not only shared with Alli, maybe particularly Alli, but also with Bill and Bondi and Mike. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's so critical of the chemistry with those characters around the dinner table. And we really had that. There was an intimacy and a familiarity, this kind of familial vibe, right, that we felt like we shared. And I think that shows up in the movie.
Yes, and a lot of the movie is dialogue based. I think if you didn't have that, the movie wouldn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and the characters are constantly playing off of each other. There's this repartee, right? Dominoes, one thing leads to another, and the batting the ball across the net, whatever analogy you want to use, but every performance is dependent on the other performance, right? It's very symbiotic. The relationships.
And they're all so uniquely personal to each other and uniquely different. And it's so to see all of those eccentricities and differences working together is like, it's just art.
Mm-hmm. Was that a concern? Because when you're writing the movie and filming it, since it is a lot of dialogue, to keep it interesting, the dialogue itself, and also maybe to have some movements in the camera and everything. So.
Well, yeah, it's. I think it was Walter Murch who said that most directors and DPs visually exhaust the possibilities in a single room in like 90 seconds, at least for the average viewer, I would say 30, 40 minutes of our movie, at least, maybe more, takes place in that dining room.
Yeah.
And so, we were deeply concerned with keeping it interesting, keeping it moving. Each time we move to a slightly different conversation and the focus shifts from character to character. And as we're kind of zeroing in on Jeff and Haley, we use slightly different variations with camera. From the camera being still to the camera moving more to the, shot compositions change to keep it interesting. Musically, things change, right? We begin in sort of silence and slowly build this sort of sonic musical soundscape that Clifton did beautifully. So yeah, I was very concerned that it doesn't just sit and get dull. The last thing you want to be is boring, right?
One thing I have a question about pertaining to the long dinner scene specifically. What was the filter you guys used towards the end? Like, it was a really unique
To give like a dream look.
Yeah.
No spoilers, but yes, in the scene that you're talking about, our DP Michael Williams made these special filters, homemade filters. He made them himself with nail polish and box cutters, basically.
Really, it's a really cool effect.
Yeah. So he took glass, right, and he sliced it up, coated it with nail polish, and that gave you that drugged out.
That makes it so much cool that it was practical.
Yeah, no, absolutely practical. Yep.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
When you score a movie, how much of it is? Do you see the whole movie beforehand?
I like to get the script before shooting begins. Mm-hmm. And the way I generally go is I like the script. In fact, I received one right before this happened. And I go through, and my process is different than a lot of people, because I look at the characters and I try and figure out themes, who deserves themes, who, what can be grouped together as certain themes. Are there objects or actual emotions or historical type things that need to have themes as well? And I'll write a bunch of music. To this day, none of that's ever made it into the actual score. because I also ask for dailies, and as I'm seeing it and starting to get the visual, then I pretty much throw everything away. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's just something about trying to get to know the characters and get my idea of what's going on with the characters and the drama, and then have that completely morphed by what I actually see and actually the way people speak is really a big part of it. So I basically write 2 scores for every movie. I throw the first one away though.
Yeah, and since Miles has a music background himself, does he have a lot of input
of course
in the score?
We it's really fun. It can get annoying sometimes when it's like we have to get something done really fast and he's driving to New Orleans and I'm sending him cues to listen to in the car, like that I'm filming on my phone. That works, that doesn't work, and then because we have to get the reel done with it.
So. It's also dangerous. Don't do that at home.
Yeah, no.
Don't check score cues while
there was one trip that you took to somewhere that we were back and forth.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's very important to me to make sure that what I'm writing goes with what the director wants and sees, and so having that back and forth feedback is really important to me, because nothing is sacred as far as I'm concerned. It's all what do you need, what do you want there, and I will make it happen.
Mm-hmm. And Alli, mentioned how different her character is, different parts of the movie. Which is more challenging, doing the more quiet stuff or some of the more physical parts of the movie?
I wouldn't. Oh, they were both so different and so fun that I can't really say that it was which is more challenging. Probably just the physical stuff, because it's the first time that I ever done anything like that in a film. So I was just trying to figure it out, but I gotta say, me and Miles, we have some good fight chemistry. I had so much fun. I was so ready to get just dirty with it. And I told Mike probably got so annoyed with me because I was just let me do it. No, I don't want the double. Let me do it. And he was like, Alli, you're bruised up already. Just let the double do her job for being thrown over the pool table and stuff like that. I was like, I want in.
The pool table was one of my favorite things to score in the whole movie.
Say that again?
The pool table scene was one of my favorite things.
Pretty awesome.
Was it?
It was just fun.
Yeah, that was a fun scene. Yeah. But I love the softer, vulnerable stuff. That was probably less challenging for me. That's just I love it. That's kind of my bread and butter. But the fighting and the physical stuff, that was all new, but absolutely I loved it, and I want to continue to. I got inspired by all of that. I want to continue to do stuff like that.
Yeah. When I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of dollar. But the movie does get really crazy too, so I don't want to give people the wrong impression of the movie. There's
and big kudos to Mike Mayhall, who played Jeff, and Emmy-nominated Mike Mayhall, who played
Drink
Jeff,
that.
and was also cheers, Mike, who Bronx SIU, check it out, Bronx SIU. Which is a cable series digital series that he got nominated for. What was I going to say? Kudos to Mike, really, because look, fight scenes are really, really hard to sell. And they're especially hard to sell in independent films where you don't have any time and you don't have any money, right? And so, Mike, like a skilled choreographer, I would go to Mike and I would say, okay, this fight needs to go from here to here, or I might even be broader than that. Mike, I just want a fight to happen at and in the swimming pool, and like a dance master, he would weave it together and worked beautifully. We had some awesome stunt doubles. They didn't get to work very much because Alli wouldn't have it. But yeah, that fight with you in the pool room was a lot of fun.
I didn't know that Mike was the stunt coordinator on that.
Yes.
Oh yeah, fantastic. My favorite fight was the dinner table with you and Sawandi and where I just fucked everybody up. I love to say that. That was my
you can say what you want, but yeah, it was pretty awesome seeing you. Lindsay, were you always going to be in the movie?
Yeah. So I've been in every one of Historia Films productions to date. And this might actually be a little bit of a question for Miles as the writer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only thing I would say is when the script originally came to me via the embryonic draft by my co-writer, Michael Donovan Horn, the character of Sadie wasn't in it, was not in the script. I thought the script had a lot of potential. The bones were really good. Some of the characters were really, really interesting. And there was this kernel, this axis point of this psychoanalytical kind of through line of everyone in the film is a victim in some way. They've suffered trauma in some way. And as a coping mechanism, many of them have turned around and become traumatizers and victimizers. And I just thought that was fascinating. But the script needed some narrative coherence, I thought, something to tie it together. And Sadie became that thing. And so as I started working with Michael and rewriting the script, so much writing is rewriting, Sadie came into existence. And as I was writing Sadie, Lindsay was the only person I could think of. I mean, I was thinking of Lindsay the whole time. And so we were talking about Sadie's arc and who she is and how she speaks and moves through the room and all these kinds of things. So from the point that Sadie, exploded or materialized into existence, Lindsay was part of the movie. But she wasn't in those very, very, very early drafts, which it's hard for me to even fathom right now, not thinking back on the movie. But
and then me meeting Lindsay, I couldn't imagine anybody else playing like my wife.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Oh no! That works perfectly.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna say there's a big arc for Lindsay's character too, and but I didn't want to spoil the movie. But where did you film the movie? Like, was it your own house or someone's house?
No. Unfortunately, it's not my house.
All right.
We shot it in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, at the home of Dr. Carr and Pam McLean, who were incredibly gracious hosts. And one of my big issues, fears, concerns going into this was, where the hell are we going to shoot this? Where are we going to find some rich people who are going to let us go in their house for 15 or 20 days and
they'll move out for us,
beat each other up, throw stuff around, and splatter blood all over everywhere and whatever. And
didn't they say, Miles, that, and we're going to be redoing these floors, so get whatever you want on them.
Yeah, they did say that at one point. Yeah. So our good friend Mindy Bennett, who sort of served as our location manager on this, found the house or knew of the house and approached them, and we were able to work something out. And
Yeah.
that this house, the house in this movie, is a character in and of itself. It
Oh my
has
gosh.
to, yeah, it has to be a certain kind of thing. And of course, our production designer Julie Tosh came in and put all the touches and the knickknacks and the arcana and the almost created that altar room set from the ground up. I mean, that room looks totally different in real life. It was like their exercise room. It had a treadmill and a
Well, and it's like from the 1970s, so the walls are covered in murals of like grapevines and all of this stuff, and it's very bright and shiny in there, and that's not what the altar room looks like in the movie.
Right.
yeah. We were very fortunate with that location.
Yeah.
Have they seen the finished movie?
No, they have not.
All right. Do you think they will, or?
Oh, yeah,
they're
Oh,
so
okay.
excited.
they're way into it.
They're sharing everything on Facebook.
They're way into
They're
it.
talking. They're loving it. Yeah, they're really.
You mentioned the blood. I mean, the blood in the movie looks great. It's really thick and dark. And so who did the gore scenes, I guess?
Thank you very much. Well, we just had a terrific art department led by Julie, our production designer, also Georgia Robles and Dayton Hall. Richard Ward, who, once again, I mean, we're working on a shoestring so often with these types of things, but we knew the blood had to sell. We knew the gore bits had to sell. I mean, there isn't a ton of gore in this movie, so we really wanted
It stands out.
Yeah, when we went there, we wanted to stick a landing, if you will, and it's one of my pet peeves. Blood in movies. Bad blood in movies is one of my pet peeves. When the blood looks all like thin and
too red and
not
dark enough,
or either too red or too watery looking. And so it was really important to me that the blood was, this nice, deep, rich red, and that it felt thick. And so yeah, Julie. That's really Julie's department. She did a great job there.
Yeah. And Alli, a lot of your scenes, you have a lot of blood like in your hair. I assume that's probably a lot of fun. I don't know.
I was going to say, when you asked about what the hardest part for her to film was, it'd probably be she got blood in her eye a couple of times, and it actually dyed her contacts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I'm pretty much blind, so I have to wear contacts, and I had to go get, thank God that they had my prescription at the Walmart in Mississippi. I had to go get, because I didn't bring any other ones. And I was like calling my dad, can you mail me some overnight or something? Because he has the prescription in Texas, because I live in LA, but my eye doctor's in Texas, and I was dealing with all of these hoops to get new contacts because it stained both of them and I looked crazy. And so I just, my kid. So I just,
you got a horror movie going on in your own head.
I'll score it.
She's great. No, so the altar, when I knew I was going to get it poured all over me, I just took my contacts out and couldn't see anything. I was like, I don't really have much to see in here anyway. So I took them out. And I was just blind for that whole altar scene.
Yeah.
But the hardest scene I think probably was actually it was the funnest was the pool scene, but they have to put a different kind of blood on you in water so it doesn't just immediately come off in the water. And that blood, you have to scrub your skin off to get it off. And I was in the shower forever at that house, just scrubbing, skin's coming off. I'm almost bleeding at this point because it was hard to get off. It was so hard to get off.
Yeah. How about out of your hair? I would assume it would be even worse getting out of your hair. I don't know.
That stuff is not that hard. Like the other, it's really not. It's the stuff that you have that they put on when you get in the fires, so it doesn't come.
The alcohol-based paint.
Alcohol, not the water-based, the alcohol-based. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I could not get that off to save my life.
It took like 3 of us. Like after we would wrap for the night,
I was sure they were scrubbing me.
Yep, and like she would just like throw her clothes like every which way, and it was hard. And her skin was like red for hours.
Yeah.
Now, Clifton, do you normally do horror movies, or what kind of movies do you normally work on?
Whatever's paying.
That's a good answer, right?
Yeah, it's all the same for me.
Do you approach them differently, or are they just movies to you? Yeah.
It's just. I mean, the differences in approach is different. Is dealing with different directors and different stuff. Some people very much want things done a certain way, and other people like Miles are way more collaborative, where it's this really good give and take. So now my main thing, what do you want? What sounds do you want? Let's come to a thing. And then I make it a point to give anyone I work with 2 to 3 times more stuff than I think they'll possibly need, and let them make the call on their side. And then if none of that works, I'll do it from scratch again at the drop of a hat. And that's just how I like to work. And like when I was doing a lot of work in New York for TV commercials, that was kind of the ethos of that. And I think that's where I kind of got it from, where it's you have 24 hours before something's going to go on the Super Bowl, and you'll do 7 or 8 full rewrites, re-recordings, remixes, and you don't have time to argue about it. You just do it and make sure you give the people what they want. And I find that works really well in both TV format and in long form format too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's just, I don't know how it's just that's the role. Your role is to do that, so at least the way I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
John Williams can tell Steven Spielberg to recut something. And they did. They recut the whole chase scene in E.T. He's like, no, the music's better.
Yeah. Interesting. I actually interviewed a composer recently, and he had the same story. I guess that's really a big story amongst the composers. Well, he cut 5 seconds out, and then he made him add it back in because he said it didn't flow without the 5 seconds of that music.
Yeah, that's the only time I know of the composer telling the director, no, your cut is wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And but
there's only one John Williams, right?
And it's because he's like, look, we're building up to the scene where the bikes fly across the moon, like the shot of the whole movie. And he's like, I need those 5 frames to make that impact, like when the because it's so
Clifton, I mean, John Williams had been working with Spielberg since
Jaws,
right? So, what is E.T. their 4th or 5th movie together, maybe?
E.T.'s 80.
Jaws, so you got Jaws, Raiders,
Jaws, 1942,
Close Encounters,
1942, right. Close Encounters,
right?
Yeah. So 5th movie.
So
collaboration.
I mean, I think of the way you and I work, right? I mean, because at this point, when I make a movie, you're sort of more than just the composer. Hence, opera consultant, and on occasion. You will have some real creative input regarding the cut. I mean, not that
in the Hollow I had one.
Right. I mean, not that you're saying it has to be this way, but you see the movie as much as any of the rest of us, and sometimes you have suggestions, and sometimes they're I'm like, that's a really good suggestion. So I'm wondering if the thing with John and Stephen was something like that, where they had just worked together so long that
I'll take it.
But it's still a great story. Anyway.
Yeah.
I say that to say that I think when you work with someone long enough and close enough, and you develop the kind of rapport, say that I have or Lindsay and I have, you start listening to them about things that aren't even necessarily their department. Because you just trust them creatively, and their creative instincts so well, and obviously those creative instincts mesh to some extent with yours, or you wouldn't have been working with them this long. Right. And so you start asking them about things that are maybe outside their purview, and I think film is the ultimate collaborative sport, and that's what it's all about. It's about finding people like that, finding people that you trust, finding that go-to tribe or whatever it might be. Yep. That you can say, hey, what would you do here? Do you think we have it? And when they say yes or we got it, or no, we don't have it, you really let that sink in. You take it to heart.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think for a director who also acts in all of his films, it's really important for Miles to have people like that he can trust, because there are some times when he doesn't have time to watch every single every playback. He doesn't have time to watch every single take. So if Clifton's there, or if I'm not in the scene and I'm there, and he says, you were watching on monitor, do we have it? He has to have someone that he can trust, that can help him with that, because as an actor and with independent film with so little money and so little time, you just don't have time to watch every single take.
Yeah, I just don't believe that. I don't believe that a film can be successful under some kind of dictatorship. And Billy Friedkin would probably disagree with me, but it's just, I think the more voices that you have in the room, especially voices that well, whose instincts who you've been around the block with, or who have you have an actor. Yeah, if you have an actor like Bill Sage or Bill Sadler or William Forsythe or whatever, who's been who has 150 plus IMDb credits, they've been on a lot of sets. Sometimes they're smarter than you are. Sometimes they have a better idea. Sometimes they have something that they think the character ought to say that's better than what's on the page. And to me,
you're pretty, hyper aware to know when somebody's emotionally intuitive, emotionally aware, emotionally intelligent enough to, assess what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
She's crazy right now. Are y'all hearing her or no?
A little bit, but yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
It's very distracting.
Yeah. Maybe we're a question, Lindsay, but I think some people don't make movies don't really know what the role of a producer might be. So, what was your role as producer on the dinner party?
So I was the last producer that came on. I originally was not going to be a producer on the film, but it's really hard to not be one when you make movies the way that Miles and I make movies. But so we started at the very top. Miles was rewriting the script and giving me his passes every day. We were working on getting the schedule together, getting the budget together, raising the money for everything, getting the location, determining when and where to get everything started and what to do. I also usually on our film serve as the casting director.
Yeah.
So kind of managing all of that, all of the auditions, going through headshots, going through all of that stuff. Miles and I do primarily between all of the producers on the film, Miles and I are primarily the ones who deal with casting. Jim
and creative more generally.
Right. Yeah. Jim did have this was Jim's project to start with. He spearheaded the original thing and brought it to us. So he had very strong opinions about who would play Haley. So he really focused on finding just the perfect Haley.
Too bad we didn't find her.
I know. We got this girl. She's not that good. But so Miles and I really focused on the rest of that. And but every little thing, like from is there enough water at the crafty station to what are we eating for dinner every night, and getting people's call times and making sure that everybody's together. Plus, I also serve as the costume designer. Mm-hmm. So having all of that kind of stuff to do and input, it's really just a very all, once we start
taking people
up at the airport and
driving people around. Making sure that people have something to do outside of set so that they're not bored, like on our days off and stuff. It's really, once Miles and I start making a movie, it's completely all encompassing. There's nothing that we don't put our fingers on.
And it's hard. It's hard. I can't overstate how valuable Lindsay is on these films, and how, I really see her as a 100% creative partner in these endeavors. And we had a very active lead producing team here on this movie, and that includes Lindsay, of course, but also Jim Bullion and Wesley O'Mary.
Mm-hmm. Put out a lot of fires.
Yeah, there are always going to be fires to put out on an independent film set, and this team was very keen and aware and ready to do that. People ask me, what do producers do? Well, on an independent film, pretty much everything. Whatever is falling through the cracks, whatever needs to be done.
And this team was really good at kind of playing tag team, so that, especially because Miles and I were both in front of the camera as well, it was really nice to have Jim and Wes there to pick up the slack when we were both busy making a movie. Mm-hmm. So,
and that just from the top down, from creative to logistical to financial to dealing with the unions to picking up talent, whatever. On an independent film set, the producers are the last line of defense. Mm-hmm. And anybody who I've talked to or talks to me about wanting to be a capital P producer, I'm like, well, you know what that's going to entail.
Yeah. I produced my first feature film in February, and it was a very grueling experience. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I quit doing anything after that, but then I decided against that. But they told me who's done before. They said that's what everyone does after you make a movie. You don't want to do it again, but then you want to do it again after.
Yeah. It's addictive.
It's addicting.
Yeah. Now, Alli, had you worked in horror movies before, and are you a horror movie fan?
Oh my gosh, yes. I love horror films. And I've done a lot of horror shorts. And right before this, I did a horror, like vampire feature but this was like the first lead in a horror feature. I did, like I said, some short horror film festivals and stuff like that. And I love it. I've always loved it. And I grew up very like religious in a religious household where I wasn't allowed to watch horror and I wasn't allowed to watch anything with witchcraft or magic. And so I loved Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and all these things that I wasn't allowed to watch. And then of course, like just Freddy Krueger and Jason and Chucky and Rosemary's Baby and just all of these horror films that I fell in love with, especially Stephen King's. Like I rewatched it 700 times and I snuck it at 2 a.m. by myself when I was 7 years old while my mom was sleeping. And I think I got really kind of addicted to that feeling of, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I could get in a lot of trouble because I got grounded and all these things taken away from me for watching horror films in like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. It really did. And so I'd sneak away and watch them at a friend's house, and my mom would call and she'd be like, what are you guys doing? And we're swimming, we're eating dinner, and really I have Saw on pause. And that feeling became something else entirely for like a decade. And now I have this special connection to horror because of it. And I'm like, do I like this because I wasn't allowed to? And I'm just naturally this rebellious spirit, who knows? But I have a very intimate relationship with horror, and I think it really stems from my childhood and like not being able to. Yeah. And I've always felt like I was just scarier than everybody. So I'm like, I really do. Like I go to haunted houses. I go to every haunted house I can on, we went to one.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah, I go and I will, I get
like actual haunted houses or like haunts like for Halloween time.
Just really crazy haunts. I go to like, Universal Horror and like all that all the time. And it's I don't know, it's kind of erotic for me. I have so much fun. And like, I've like walked up to the people with the chainsaws and like kissed them and stuff just because I'm like, I am in my element right now.
Yeah, but now they make you sign stuff that you're not going to touch people.
Yeah. Well, I've gone to some where you can. Oh, we're in. I haven't gone to the extreme ones, but and
have you ever seen anything about the McCamey Manor? That's the real like extreme one.
Ooh, I watched those. Yes, I watched that documentary. Yeah.
That's I had the guy on. He's because I find him very interesting, even though I don't know why he does what he does because he doesn't get paid or anything. I just think
he's obsessed.
Yeah, that's the one where they like bury you alive and stuff, and
no one's actually ever even finished it. Okay. Like they do they even pull people's teeth, like really like crazy things. I'm not sure why anyone would do it, but.
So to answer your question, yes, and I feel like it's attracted to me too because it always comes into my life somehow, and I like making people feel uncomfortable.
I don't know if you want to answer this or not, but does your mom watch horror movies now that you're in? Will she watch the dinner party? She
will. She's gonna hate it, but she because I've done a lot of like even stage plays and and when I was in theater school, I wrote everything I wrote was disturbing and disgusting. And Alli, I don't know why. I don't know why you do that. And she just tries to wrap her head around it, and I'm like,
you're troubled, clearly.
She's gonna watch it, and she used to watch me practice for The Exorcist, the stage show, and I was Emily, and so she hates it. she hates it, but she's like, well, that's Alli.
Yeah. Clifton, you said like you do all kinds of movies, but do you like horror movies?
Very much so. Very much so. Big fan. I like lots of disturbing things. I like lots of gore, and I don't like the good guys to win, and I hate when the virgin gets away at the end. That always upsets me. Like, you know, I like it. I like the really twisted one. I'm a real big fan of like Takeshi Miike's stuff. Like that stuff is like where my heart is. Like Audition, Ichi the Killer, you know, those crazy Japanese and the Korean stuff.
Ooh, yeah.
That's where it gets really fun.
Yeah.
Every time I send Clifton a horror script, he advises me to write more perverse, twisted.
Uh-huh.
I had some for this
I
one.
like this guy. Yeah.
So this might be the most perverse, twisted film we've worked on together. And even still, after Clifton read it the first time, he was making suggestions to take it further. I was just like,
I'm like, really? That's it? Let's go.
I want to see more horror films where everybody does everything right and they still die. Like, you know, like don't go in that room. Don't go, like, don't do that. Don't fall on the ground as you're running away. Like, do everything right, everything very intelligent and calculated, and still just.
It's like a meta slasher movie where like all the right choices are actually they're planned for.
Right.
So,
Like
Alli,
Leatherface got a
if that's
brain.
what you want, I have something for you to read.
Email me, sister.
Would that be what you just emailed me?
Yes.
possibly.
Yeah. Email it to. Is it that?
Very excited. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Everybody does everything right.
I don't know about that. but
Pretty close.
This is a new script we're working on.
Yeah, it's a project.
It's a new project that we have in the pipeline called Demigod. That same producing team. This is Jim is working with us again. Something we are trying to put together and figure out around, of course, COVID-19 and when we can actually ensure that we can shoot it in on the safest possible playing field,
safe.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's looking like it's going to be our next project.
Yeah. The movie I mentioned in February was right before everything happened. So I don't want people to think we were filming like, you know, when you were supposed to or anything. But
yeah.
So,
Last-
what was that? Sorry?
I was just thinking of the last movie that I watched where everyone did everything right and still died, and I think it was The Strangers with Liv Tyler.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the last one. That's what I was thinking about. Yeah, they still got.
No, I mean,
They did everything right. They did.
Well, I mean, look at the priests in The Exorcist, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
What?
they both die. Spoiler. That's okay. That's a spoiler.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that movie, you deserve it to have it spoiled. So, I mean, I think that, you know,
Go, baby.
part of the horror of horror is seeing characters that you care about who are perhaps making good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you have people who are stumbling and bumbling and going in the room they shouldn't be going in. But, you know, part of the horror of horror is seeing characters that you love die, right? I mean, and that's part of the catharsis, maybe, of the genre.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm less.
What's interesting, I think about the horror genre, there's so many subgenres of horror.
Yeah.
When you say horror, I mean, it could be so many different things. It could be very graphic. It could be funny. It could, you know, there's so many different styles.
And that's why it's so much fun.
Right.
It's a big old sandbox, right?
They're like, see, like The Omen, the devil wins in the end.
Right.
Yes.
The fate.
Another good example. I mean, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Gregory Peck is a totally great dude in that. Right? He's a totally great dude who, you know, a humanitarian, smart, logical, right? You know, down to earth, you know, just trying to be a good guy and do the right thing. No.
It's great.
Satan wins. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when does The Dinner Party come out? I think I probably have it here.
So we originally had planned for a June 5th small theatrical release. We had some events we were cooking up in New Orleans and in Los Angeles. But of course, due to the pandemic, that theatrical is not going to happen. So, so we are going to be released in the streaming world and on DVD, Blu-ray on June 9th.
Okay.
So June 9th, you will be able to find the film on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Fandango Now. VHX, Steam, Vudu, all those guys, and on your cable video on demand menu, regardless of your cable carrier, shortly after on DirecTV. And if you're still a physical media kind of person, you can order the DVD Blu-ray on Amazon, which has a really cool little behind-the-scenes featurette that was put together by Travis Mills. It's about 10 minutes long, but it's a really nice piece. If you're interested in getting a little more insight about the film and hearing from the cast, Travis came out, shot interviews with the cast a couple of days, and so that's on the DVD Blu-ray. Yeah, you're in it.
No, I know why you're laughing at me.
I want to see it. Yeah.
June 9th.
Yeah.
June 9th. All right, very cool. It's probably too early to ask this, but do you know how like the pandemic is going to affect video on demand? Like, do you think more or less people will get things on demand now?
I think that more people are watching streaming video. Yes, I do. I think that. I mean, I just think of our own example. We have done things like watch the entire Marvel catalog in chronological order.
Oh wow!
Under quarantine,
that probably took like 2 weeks.
We started watching all the Bond films in chronological order. Now we're watching all the Michael Mann films. So we I think that a lot of people are seeking out content and are hungry for content and are looking to movies and television for comfort. Yeah. For entertainment and just for something to pass the time. And that's why I think I get really chapped when people diss on artists because you think of a time like this and obviously our frontline workers, our healthcare workers are so supremely important, and God bless each and every one of them for their incredible work and sacrifice. But in this time, how important are movies and TV and music and poetry and all those things that bolster and sustain us and have done so, that we've leaned on in this time of, let's face it, we've all experienced, regardless of how close or far COVID has come to us and our household.
Yeah,
we've all experienced a kind of trauma, and we've leaned on art and music to help get us through, and that really is something that is powerful and palatable, and so I hope that people will keep creating and keep being creative, because I think that the arts are as important as they have ever been, and in some cases more so.
Yeah, I agree 100%. There's even some cool ones that people have put together just currently, like during the pandemic, they would just film in their house with just what they have, and there's like some anthologies that I've seen that are they're really well made and they're fun.
Well, and some things that like John Krasinski's Some Good News, and watching all these wonderful musicians from around the world just playing with a guitar and a piano in their house, that rendition that Robbie Robertson and Ringo Starr did of The Wait with musicians from around the world remotely. Did you see that, Clifton?
Nope.
Oh man, Google that and check it out. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's just so powerful. Just seeing how all these artists, rising up and trying to give us, some succor and comfort and salve in this really complicated, difficult, painful time has been absolutely inspiring. I mean, it really, really has. Yeah.
Now,
imagine if we were together in this quarantine.
Oh, God.
I have thought that. Transmute this collective pain into.
Yeah. Clifton, I did want to ask too, because I like the score throughout the whole movie, but there's one particular scene is when there's some violence going on. You actually have like operatic music. I think it's the first time someone gets killed, not to spoil the movie, but I thought that worked really well because I like the contrast in the music and and something violent. Yeah, kind of makes the violence seem pretty in its own way.
Thank you. That was that's reel 2, and that's the beginning of reel 3. And that was probably the hardest thing to do in the whole, probably the hardest scoring part to do, because I literally took a bunch of recordings of the operas that they're all talking about earlier in the thing, and I found wax cylinder recordings of them from the early part of the 1900s. And because they play, the first time you see Sebastian put a thing on, it's on an old gramophone. right? Way early. So I was like, oh, so we can play with this kind of lo-fi thing. So then I was taking that and I put it into a granular synthesizer and broke it up into little pieces to where the song is being morphed and also creating other notes and harmonies through the synthesis to rap against itself, and taking the sound of Alli's voice and using that to do the same thing, to where it then built this huge pad of music and ambient sounds which came together to create this crazy thing. And then the whole idea that I wanted was when you finally saw there's a death in the movie, I'm sorry. When the death finally happens, it actually is kind of on the prettier side of it, because I wanted it to be less on the horror and more on the joy of the actual people that were responsible for it. Mm-hmm. And their huge joy is this opera. So like, let this be actually a cathartic, orgasm type thing, not a horrific thing, which in many ways, like when I've showed it to some other people, they found that to be actually kind of scarier, that it is so pretty at that point.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's definitely, and if you watch what's happening on Carmine's face during that moment, it works very well. It's just, it almost feels like, and Clifton and I talked about this, it's almost an Ennio Morricone moment, isn't it? Like a little bit of
that was the idea, yeah. Especially what happens right after the deed is done, when they're doing the other stuff. That's the real Morricone moment.
Yeah.
Agatha gets drunk.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes a Puerto Rican fuckfest, which is great. Come on, you heard the music I wrote for that section.
Now, Alli, what did you think of when you see the finished movie? Obviously, you're there filming and stuff, but once you see it's all edited and you have the score in there, what did you think?
I honestly, I kind of have a weird relationship with this. It's in my own head because I won't finish it. I've watched 25 minutes of it. And I was like, I really wanted to do this. Like, I didn't want to watch it by myself. I didn't or just my sister. And I was like, do I wait? And cause I plan on coming to, New Orleans is like very soon. And it was really important to me. I wanted to watch it with Miles and Lindsay. So I think I'm going to continue to wait. As tempting as it is, cause I have it and I've like skipped to parts just so I know like that I'm going to be questioned about in interviews, but like I really want to watch it with you too. I don't know. I know that I'm coming there like this fall. So I'm either going to wait, or I'm just going to like set something up in my home that's like makes it theatrical and big, but I want to wait and watch it with you too.
The biggest.
I don't know. I feel weird.
Well, I mean, it really is disappointing that because this really is a film that screams to be seen on a big screen.
Yeah,
and
it does. Heard. I felt like I was being robbed of this experience from watching it on my laptop, and I stopped it, and I jumped around. I saw the more soul moments of the beautiful performances and the shots, and it was just looked like the Baroque paintings that we were looking up and talking about, and I was just like, oh, I can't. I feel like I'm cheating and robbing it of this like experience that it deserves, and so I took it off the laptop, and I was like, I'm gonna. And Jenna was like, "You're not gonna watch it," and I was like, "Nope, I'm gonna wait." Because I didn't know how to hook it up to my TV, and I couldn't just watch it on my laptop like that.
Mm-hmm. I think horror movies and comedies too are best to be seen with people, because you can kind of have a group kind of interaction. Where other movies, I mean, it's cool to see any movie on a big screen, but like if you're watching a drama, there isn't like the interaction with the audience. I don't think.
Right.
Yeah. So
not feeding on other people's laughter.
It's just, we spend a lot of time, and, Michael Williams did an amazing job, and Jared Hollingsworth, our editor, and our fantastic colorist par excellence, Bradley Greer, the best in the business. And of course, Clifton's dynamic score. I mean, we spend all this time looking at this stuff and tweaking it and fine tuning it on big calibrated monitors in Dolby certified rooms. for people to watch it on their iPhone or their laptop. It's just not the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am not going to rob myself of this. No.
Yeah.
There's literally stuff in the score that is physically impossible to hear unless it's on big speakers.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like it's made that way to give the rumble in the seat, and you just,
Right. And I could even tell in the moments that I saw with the music, I was like, this is meant to disturb my molecules, and it's can't through these laptop speakers. I'm not doing it. I got pissed. I was frustrated.
Yeah. Lindsay, did you research anything for Sadie's character, like how you're going to play her and some of the things she does?
Good question.
I thought about doing some research. I kind of had toyed. Sorry. God.
He's trying to answer.
Had toyed with the idea of doing like a 1930s mid-Atlantic accent, little Katharine Hepburn or something, or a British accent. This was before Miles had decided that Vincent was going to have a British accent. And I really kind of just wanted her to feel like she could lift out of this world, like she was grounded into the earth, like she was connected to the earth, but didn't necessarily belong in this place at this time. And so she's sounds very different to me when I watch it and hear it. She sounds like a completely different person. She speaks a little bit more low, and there's just a little bit more melody in her voice. And I also have degrees in ancient history and Greek, and Greek is a melodic language, ancient Greek at least, that had a lot of accents and things like that. And so I kind of thought, if she does have this kind of way of speaking, that maybe, I don't know how to finish answering that without saying something bad.
There's a musicality to it. Yeah, there's a musicality and a rhythm to the way she talks, and that was a character choice.
And I wanted her to feel, there's something of like a slithering nature that I wanted to feel with her movements, and I just
was very windy.
Yeah.
The other thing that Lindsay was instrumental on is the sort of the helping advise on the creation of this religion that these characters espouse in the movie, of which Sadie is a practitioner. That's not really ruining anything. So Lindsay has a lot of knowledge and has done a lot of reading on Near Eastern mother goddesses, the spiral goddess, and the triple goddess tradition, and all these kinds of things, and a lot of that, the Minoan snake goddess, who you see peppered throughout the film. So pay attention to these. They're breadcrumbs, folks. Anyway, and so we were always having those conversations throughout the sort of revision process of the script.
Plus, when he told me that he had written Sadie with me in mind, I lived with the script for longer than anybody but Miles in terms of actors. Yeah. In terms of actors.
Oh, yeah.
So where Alli only had a couple of weeks to, think about her character and stuff like that, I'd been living with Sadie in my head for months. So it's not necessarily like I was going out of my way to do research. She was just there.
Yeah. So the dinner party said it's June 9th. People can get on video on demand and in BluRay DVD. I like physical release, but either way is cool, whatever people are into. I say that, but sometimes even if I know I have a movie on DVD or Blu-ray, sometimes it's easier just to go and watch it if I know it's on, if it's on like Shudder.
Yeah, it really is.
It's kind of stupid, but yeah.
We've gotten pretty lazy, right? It's like, I gotta take it out.
Do I want to go pick it up or just turn it on?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Please try to watch it. That first week it comes out, if at all possible, and if you like the movie, do say something nice about the movie on one of these platforms. Plus IMDb, that's a big one. User reviews really help. Word of mouth on independent films is such a big deal. Independent films are successful by creating this kind of snowball word of mouth kind of viral, sorry to use that term, but it's the best one I could think of, effect, right? Where people keep talking about it, they tell 5 or 10 people, and those people tell 10 or 20 more. Because the fact of the matter is, Trolls are going to get on IMDb and Amazon and iTunes and trash your movie regardless of how good it is. This is what they live for. They're like living in their mother's basement, eating Twinkies, trashing your movie. And they are crueler. The real cruelty is they are meaner to independent films than they are big studio films with $150 million budgets. If you want to pick on Avengers, be my guest. Do it all day long. But come on, folks. People, independent filmmakers who are scraping and clawing and spending their own money to get their movie made and out into the world, and you're going to go on and trash that person's movie. Surely you have something better to do with your time. So anyway, the point I'm making is, if you like our movie, please go somewhere, go onto one of these platforms and say something nice about it. It doesn't have to be long. It's a huge help to us, and we would be exceedingly grateful.
Very good. Where can you follow everybody here? So, like Clifton, where can people follow you? Not like to your house, but unless you want that information, I don't know. But.
Which one am I? I do one of them.
You're on Instagram.
You're on Instagram.
All right.
I loathe social media.
All right.
Clifton is at Clifton Aird, AIRD, Hyde, HYDE on Instagram.
All right. Very good. Alli, where can people follow you?
I'm at Alli Shea, ALLISHEY.
God, for a minute. Yeah.
On Instagram, yeah. I don't have it.
My cousin's named Alli Shea.
No way.
Yep.
Alli Shea?
Yeah.
I've never met another Alli Shea.
Well, you haven't met this one either, but she.
Just Alli Shea. How old is she? Is she my age?
You're what, 21?
27.
Okay, yeah. So she's like 34.
Oh, wow. That's cool. What were you, Lindsay, what was your question?
Oh, if you were on Twitter.
No.
Oh.
I can only be addicted to one social media, so
Mm-hmm.
one addiction at a time.
Lindsay, where can people follow you?
I am most active on Instagram. I technically have a Twitter, but I haven't signed on to it in like 5 years. But my Instagram handle is Puella_Deville, DEVILLE. It is both a Latin joke and a Disney joke. So Puella Deville, that's me.
And mine is very easy. It's at Miles_Doleac, and that holds for both Instagram and Twitter.
All right,
at
very good.
Miles_Doleac.
Yeah. And does the dinner party have a social media page anywhere?
It does not, but you could follow. We have a Facebook page. We have a Facebook page. Yeah. Okay. You can Google or search Facebook for the dinner party.
Historia has a page, doesn't it?
Historia
there's
Films.
a Historia Films page. Historia has Facebook and Twitter at Historia Films MS. That's HISTORIA Films Miss. And then our distributor at Uncork'd Ent. And that there's no E in that, so it's UNCORKDENT on Instagram. They post a good deal of material about our movies and stuff as well. But I mean, I'm trying to be more active on social media and to really blast.
Kind of have to be if you're.
Yeah. So if you're following my Instagram or Twitter feed, you're gonna hear about what's going on with the movie. We post reviews, we post interviews like this. I posted a bunch of stills and reflections about the film, and
I know I loved that you did that.
Various departments. So if you follow me on Instagram at Miles_Doleac, you'll be able to follow what's going on.
All right, very cool. Well, I appreciate everyone taking time to do this. It's been fun.
Thank you.
And I really liked the dinner party. I liked it right away when I saw the cool jackets. I saw even one of the posters had one on. I think it was one of the alternate posters. So this Miles like choking somebody, and I was like, "That's a jacket." But yeah.
That was just like we were literally working, and it was like, "Pause, let me take your picture." And it happened, and when we saw it later, we were like, "That was literally a blimp in the day," and we loved it.
Oh yeah, it's a great photo. I love it.
It was like Bill Sage was trying to show Miles how to use the different functions on his phone, and he was like, "Here, you just do this," and that photo happened.
That's what literally no edit, anything.
Yeah,
great.
I love it. Yeah. One of the apps on his phone is how to choke people, apparently. All right. Well, I always have to tell people as soon as to save this, I have to just hang up, and I feel bad just hanging up, but it's the only way to save this this whole video. So I'm going to hang up on everybody. Basically, is what I'm
So
saying.
you'll send us the link, right, Neil?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I'll send it
Neil,
on.
thank you for what you do to promote independent film. We
You're
so
welcome.
sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, and thank you guys for doing this. It's really been a lot of fun.
I think
Neil.
that's
Thanks.
nice to virtually meet you.
Yeah, you as well. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.